All right, guys, I am joined by GT once again. He came on the channel almost a year ago. That was like almost a year
Really?
ago. Yeah, that was right after
Wow.
the PlayStation VR2 release. We were talking about, oh man, I can't wait for Firewall Ultra and Crossfire. That didn't go so well.
Well,
Um,
Firewall Ultra for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
Crossfire was disappointing me, but it was okay. But yeah, so today we're going to be going over a bunch of games that we agree with and completely disagree on. So I thought this would be a fun video because I'm sure you probably see a comment every once in a while like, oh, not everyone agrees with this. Someone had a different take. And I see that too every once in a while. And I think we could get into even a little bit deeper about like how we affect the overall community with some of our early reviews, what do developers think, stuff like that. So we'll see if we have time for that. I'll start with some easy layups, some games I'm pretty sure we agree on, but like Ghost Signal, a Stellaris game, like
Yeah.
solid game.
Yeah. And I just don't think it's got the traction that it deserved.
Yeah. Well,
So yeah.
you look at it, doesn't look exciting. I think that's what it is. You look at the footage, but the gameplay is there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I've completed it like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah. No,
Really enjoyed it.
I'm with you. I think I'm at like 7. You know,
Yeah.
I was racking up
Such a
the
good game.
keys. Yeah, it's a very solid game. That's a game I would love to see expand more, and you know, didn't get the credit it deserves. So that's an easy one. Another easy one for us, I would say, is Underdog or
Yeah.
Underdogs.
Underdogs is fucking I love Underdogs, mate. I love Underdogs. And I love it because it's got that like grime soundtrack. It's got the UK speak in it.
Yeah, it's
I
got.
was I was so surprised they went that direction. I mean, these guys are they Palestinian or Israeli? I'm not sure where they're
I
from,
don't know
but
the
either,
devs now.
no, but either way, they're not from London.
Yeah. And it was cool. Like they must be inspired by that type of grittiness and that game is dripping with style. But I think again what sells it is the gameplay. It's got an addictive gameplay. And
Yeah.
that's another game. I feel like it's getting the traction. They're doing a really good job with promotion. But that's a game that needs a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're gonna maybe bring out hopefully bring out some DLC. I haven't checked store reviews much, but the developers told me they're very happy. And that's just something you don't hear
Yeah.
all that often at the moment. So
I know they were trying to get to like the 500 review mark. I know they hit it. I know their like review score was like 4.8. Not that I take MetaQuest store reviews like very seriously, but I mean they are at least some form of scaling. Like I think they lean a little bit more positive than they should. Like I don't think I've ever given a meta game on the Metastore 5 stars ever.
Yeah, possibly. I'm probably the same. I'm trying to think, but possibly. Yeah.
Because a 5-star system, like I want to give a game an 8.5. I want to give a game maybe a 9, maybe. That's not 5 stars in my opinion. So I'm gonna go 4.
Do you still like for yourself and your content? Do you number games still, or do you just?
If I've played a game completely through, yes, I will put a number score, and then I'll readjust it like at the end of the year. Because sometimes you know you got that honeymoon experience, like you're in the honeymoon phase, you're a little bit happier than you should be.
Yeah.
Or first impressions change too, and these days a game could be completely different 1 year later.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We know what it's like, man. They rush games out. And we're probably going to talk about Heartshot in a minute as a prime example of that. But I gave up doing the numbering because I started learning about investments in games and how basically, I mean, I would never think my channel could affect the space this much. But there was a particular game I gave a 6. And oh no, it wasn't just it's like 6.7, and it would depend on the format, on the platform. It went a little bit lower, but the highest was 6.7. And yeah, the developer was so angry. Like he was so angry. He was saying this shows the sort of person you are. You don't realize how many families you've affected, like all this stuff. And basically, it's because they said to their investors, this game is going to be like a 7 minimum. It's going to be above a 7. So, and I couldn't help but think, like, why me? Like, why me? Like, why does this? And that's the kind of thing. So I've kind of, not just because of that, it's a couple of times, but I've kind of thought, right, I'm going to stop. Not like I'm just going to say how I feel instead of using using that number system, which I did for a long time. But yeah, when I learned that, dude, I was like,
I'm completely with you, and this is a topic I wanted to hit on. I'm glad you got into it already. Like, how do we affect the overall community? You got to understand, like, YouTube itself the numbers we hit, they're not insane. However, when it comes to both VR and the average person on YouTube, we are just like killing it. So we are influential. And I've always had imposter syndrome. I'm like, stop it. You know, like I can't influence the market, or what I say doesn't really matter, or people always take everything with a grain of salt. But that's not, you know, you learn that, no, we do have some significant influence.
Yeah.
And sometimes
I guess so, mate, yeah.
Yeah, and like, yes and no. I feel like I can't make or break the market at all, or make or break a game. But sometimes we do have enough like impact to kind of start a little bit of a negative spiral. Like sometimes before a game launches, I'll see like 20 people in the comments saying, oh no, this game is terrible because of XYZ. And I'm like, none of these people played the game yet. I didn't see that. Where did they get that? And then it's some creator who said like XYZ about this game is broken. And I didn't experience that. And I'm just like scratching my head. And it's just like, wow, that's really strange. And we'll get into a couple examples of that later on. I have them on the list. But yeah, so we do have the potential. And I think sometimes developers, you know, either only want to do paid promotion with us, or because at least paid promotion, we know we're not going to come out and shit on the game. Like I did paid promotion for Stride and I was hard on them. I was pretty hard on them. And I was like, listen, I got to be honest. Like I said everything and I don't give them pre-approval. So, and they were fine with it. They were just like, we wish you would have used a little bit better footage. That's all they said to me. So that's fine. So some devs are cool. Some are just like, I don't want to deal with that. Like, I think Stranger Things being such a well-known IP, they were like, no early access. Let the people decide. Or maybe they're just thinking, hey, it's a well-known IP. That'll sell the game. You know, we don't want people ruining it for us. So we do have some surprising influence that I did not expect.
There was, for me personally, I think it was, I saw a couple of tweets about basically channels that break through even the 1,000 subscriber mark, the 10,000 subscriber mark, and the percentage is ridiculous. I think we're in like the 4%.
Yep.
Or something.
Which
is insane.
Blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind when I read that. I'm 4%. Like, I am nobody.
I know, man.
Nobody. I have influence. The first time I actually saw that was like the first time Kiwi came to me. It's like, hey, we want you to do paid promotion for us, do ads for us. And I asked my community, they're like, yeah, we're cool with it. You use Kiwi, you like Kiwi, of course. And then I could see like every time I generate a sale, and it went surprisingly well. And I didn't think I would sell a single Kiwi battery pack. And it went surprisingly well. So I'm like, okay, I guess I do have some reach, some influence. So it's learning, but still, imposter syndrome always sneaks in, and I'm like, I'm nobody. It doesn't matter what I say. So sometimes,
that's good. I think that's good though. I think it keeps you humble a little bit. You know?
Got to be humble, and also like I don't want to feel like, well, I can't say how I really feel because I might hurt someone. This is part of the game. If you're like, just think about how many people are nasty to us.
Yeah, too.
Like, just think about it. It's part of the game. You know, they're gonna be nasty to me no matter what I say. I was positive about the next game I want to get into, Legendary Tales. I was positive about Legendary Tales, and people are still rough on me. I really love that game for years. Actually, I've been a big advocate for that game. But the PlayStation VR community hates me because I've said lots of negative things, which topic I definitely want to get to. We got a lot of stuff we got to get to.
Okay.
But they were still like, well, you played a lot on PC. That doesn't count. And I'm like, listen, I went to the PlayStation version. It's basically the same. And I can't do apples to apples because you might have a crap PC or you might have a 4090. So I can't tell you what the experience is compared to PC. I can tell you my experience. The games are very similar. I think it's just as good on both platforms, and I love the game.
So why are you getting crap? I don't understand.
Because the PlayStation VR community doesn't like me. They don't like me. There's no way around it. Let's get into that. PlayStation VR2.
Okay.
I heard you make a crazy bet earlier this year.
Yeah, stupid.
How you feeling about that bet?
I'm still optimistic. No, I don't know. I mean, to be the PC compatibility thing, and I said it in my video, I was like, this is kind of their way in, and it's worrying me. I kind of think this is their way of saying we probably haven't got enough games coming, so this is the only other way you can make use of that headset. And the response was insane because everyone was so excited about this this thing they're doing.
Compatibility,
yeah. And I was kind of thinking to myself, do you guys realize how expensive PCs are? Like, I find it very confusing that how can you have all these great VR games on PC and you could have had a Quest 2 for $299 or pounds, and you could have already experienced those games for the last 2 or 3 years, and yet suddenly, because PSVR2 is going compatible, it's the best thing in the world. Like, PCVR is, like, people refer to it as dead, like a dead platform, and yet suddenly they're like, yeah, PCVR,
So
and I'm like, oh.
I think this is where I butt heads with the PlayStation VR community the most. Is I feel like they celebrate everything like it's a major victory because they have nothing, and I that's a little bit too aggressive of a statement. Like, they've dropped some of the best VR games like ever with Resident Evil 8 and Resident Evil 4 remake, and I definitely enjoyed Call of the Mountain, but it's not top tier for me, but I definitely enjoyed it. GT7, if you're into sim racing, there's nothing better. So they drop these games, but like listen, you can play them once. They're all horror shooters basically. It's not for everyone. The catalog is lacking, and I feel like they celebrate everything as like a massive win. And I'm like, guys, be realistic. And they're like even like the Reddit community at one point was like, listen, we're sick of people saying negative stuff about the PlayStation VR 2. This community is about people who enjoy the PlayStation VR 2. Anything negative will be destroyed.
Yeah, they ban you pretty much. Yeah.
So it's like, oh, come on. It's like, you have to be realistic. You have to let Sony know, even though Sony knows at this point, you have to be realistic to improve.
You do, but like I kind of feel that if they want to just be in their little bubble, like, who are we to ruin it? But then at the same time, if they're watching your video and they can already tell the title is going to be, what's the word? It's going to be
negative. Is that what you're going?
Not negative, no. Like, you're not, just because you're making a video at PSVR, it doesn't mean it's gonna be something they're probably not going to hear. Controversial.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to pause.
It's potentially a controversial video, and they still clicked it. So
yeah,
what do they expect? But then the other thing is you're dealing with PlayStation fans.
That is a lesson I've learned. They are a special breed. Because listen, I have ragged on the Quest to no end, especially in the early days. Quest 1, Quest 2. I put my ass on a Quest. I've ragged on it to no end. And the community was not nearly as tough as the PlayStation community. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's like you got the PSVR, I guess, fans, and then you've got also on top of that PlayStation fans. So yeah, they are a different breed, and as I said, they're genuinely nice, but like, yeah, Reddit, I'm completely shadow banned. My content's actually shadow banned on there. You can't even share my stuff on there. Yeah. So yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, that's a rough one there. But I think your dream of the 10 IPs, first party IPs, is dead already. You could get Micah's dinner. And,
I know. Oh, I'm hoping there's at least 4 or 5. Like,
I was hoping there'd be 1, but I don't think we're getting anything. Between the recent cuts, the numbers. Like, here's the thing. Like, I reached out to tons of developers. Some are very happy to talk. They just say, as long as we're off the record. Others are like, you could freely share what I tell you. Just don't say I said it. Right. And like, I've given like general numbers. They think like the number of PlayStation VR 2 sold was 1.3 million, which is never going to be enough to fund a AAA style game. And there's other developers, like even Rec Room said it publicly, like, the platform's too small. It doesn't make financial sense for us to support it. And like Population 1 is in there. They're like, nah, we're not going to. Our team is too small. We can't support another platform that's going to make us pennies. So that's how like a lot of devs are feeling.
I think the devs you got on there first probably did the best.
Yes.
You know, yeah.
100%. Like, you got what's called Swordsman VR. They did well. You know, you had that first... like,
I reckon Pavlov did well.
Yeah, you had those first like 6 to 8 months where there was still a good amount of hype and people were really excited and devs were like, yeah, new toys to play with. And then after that, it kind of, the numbers weren't there. The sales, I mean, the holiday sales are what really makes it look bad.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've got the same probably some communication like you have with developers, and all of them don't want to be named, and they definitely don't want their games named because they, in a way, I think if you say to someone this game isn't selling, they think people will think the game's bad, but that's not the case. It's just not selling. But they, and I won't say when it's happened, but there's been a game that I think did relatively well in their top 10, like really well, and those developers probably won't make a VR game ever again.
Yep, I know who it is.
Yeah, and it's
sad.
It's crushing. It's really crushing. Yeah.
Those same developers probably aren't even making their money back.
They might do in time, but
that's where we are, and it's sad. It's sad to look at that. And like, I thought PlayStation VR had a lot more potential, but if it was going to meet its potential, it needed Sony backing. Like, it needed a money infusion, and it needed lots of advertisement, and it needed like 2-3 first-party IPs a year. You know?
For sure. And I think like they did a really good job. I mean, I can't remember what the sales numbers of the original PSVR was.
It's beating it, but not by much.
Yeah, I mean, I guess lifetime, but they were really, like, when it first came out, I remember there was a giant PSVR headset that you could walk into and play PSVR games in it, advertising at like one of the main train stations in London. Just all sorts of stuff. You go to game shows, there was PlayStation VR there, all great booths and stuff, and just none of that has happened. Maybe it's the repercussions of COVID still that people are feeling, you know.
It's hard to judge. I just think everyone has moved to like standalone VR, and you need, just a much lower upfront cost, because, people are not going to get a PlayStation and a PSVR2 to get right into VR. They're just not going to do it. It's just too much to ask. And then you say, okay, well, all right, the people who have a PlayStation 5 might go get VR. Okay, a small percent will, but now you've dropped from the whole world down to 50 million people that could potentially get your product, and it's already expensive. So it was a tough sell.
I'm sure you feel the same as me, that just the initial pricing of that headset was an error, a marketing error. Making an add-on peripheral more expensive than the console was I think still a big mistake. But
I think we're gonna agree on all the mistakes. The PlayStation fanboys can come for us with pitchforks. So
the thing is, I support I do my best to support it. I am so I love PSVR. It literally comes from a place of my own disappointment. It's not anything else,
I'm with you too. And people are mad at me, like, they're just like, well, if you want to support it, just be positive. And I'm like, but if you're hyping and positive when it's not real, it becomes a joke, and people don't take it serious. And then people are gonna be like, oh yeah, I can't wait. Horizon Call of the Mountain's the best game ever made. And they try it, and like, nah, VR's a gimmick. I think that's even worse to put out in the world than to just be open and honest and critical. I think, being critical really helps you improve.
It helps it. Okay. Yeah, I agree.
So let's move into some games we disagree with. We'll start kind of with a recent one and go to things that are a little bit more heated. One I have on the list that you recently mentioned, I saw you say something on Twitter, is Heartshot. You said lots of potential there. Yeah. And I kind of went into it and felt the exact opposite. Now, I'll put the bugs aside. They released it early access, which sometimes for PSVR is a cop-out. PlayStation doesn't allow early access, and Meta's pushed it to App Lab. However, push the bugs aside, which there were some. My problem was I couldn't get into the story because it portrays itself as this like realistic espionage thriller type of game, and then once you get into it, it's goofy. Like, you're in the F-16, they drop you in, and they're like, oops, your parachute didn't deploy. 1 sec, crash. Then you get out, and it's like the lowest resolution textures I have ever seen in my life.
That was an art style choice, though.
Oh, it makes vanilla Skyrim look good.
I loved it. I loved that style, though.
No, but the style isn't persistent. Like, you look at the trees, and you look at the world, and you look at the snow, and you're like, okay, that looks like Compound, which I'm okay with. Then you see the enemies, and they're normal.
Yes, that's true. Yeah,
So,
even the big building that you go
yes,
into.
and the big building in the background. Like you see this cool building in the background, and then you see pixelation trees in front of it. So
yeah,
so like I'm struggling to get into this game. Then like you go into it's an espionage mission. You go into the building through the giant barricade door. You just open up. No one seems to notice. Then a guy comes flying out of like a sewer, scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
But it's goofy.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
It's goofy. Like then you're in the elevator and they're like, oh no, oh look, there's a bad guy here. Lock down the elevator. Everyone on high alert. It's an excuse to show like this cool scenario where you're going down the elevator and it shows a bunch of levels. But then when you get to the bottom, even though everyone's on high alert, there's a guard there just scratching his ass.
Yes.
And then I put the gun to the back of his head, shot him. He didn't even blink. He did not give a shit. He turned around, I put 2 more bullets into him, and then he winked out of existence. Okay. And I said, I am officially done with this game.
That never happened to me, but I get it. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, so like I couldn't get into the game. And that's the whole thing. Like it's VR, it's a virtual world. I can buy into anything, aliens, space, whatever. I could buy in, but it's got to be persistent and like it. And that's where I was like, nah, I don't see the potential in this game.
So that game, I don't know if you know the developers like Peter France and a couple of others. They're part of a YouTube channel that does a lot of like comedy skits and stuff like that. They're quite a big channel as well.
Okay.
And that's why a lot of people recognized the voices. The game's definitely more of a comedy. If you carried on playing, you'd have noticed you had a girl on your comms as you started the game. Yeah, there's moments like where she's having a go at a guy in the background because she forgot to put her mic on mute and stuff like that. So yeah, I guess I never took it that way. I was really upset in the state it launched though. And you know, I was DMing the guys and they were like, yeah, fixes are coming. And I think it was because they'd already technically delayed it twice. They didn't officially delay it, but they delayed it officially once.
A little technical info.
And then like 4 days later, they just dropped it at like 3 a.m. my time. Yeah, it could have really done with some external playtesting, which I don't think they did. But yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it. And when I got to the end of it, I kind of wanted to know what was next. But admittedly, I didn't even get to finish the very last sequence because I just fell through the world and straight out the end of it. So, and I said that, you know, and I said all how I felt about it.
Yeah.
I haven't actually watched anyone else's videos. I think Ben said roughly the same, that he thinks he's got a lot of potential.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I think if I went in with different expectations, maybe I could have enjoyed it more, but certain things kept pulling me out, like those textures, the goofiness. It's just not what I expected from the trailers. I expected something a lot more serious tone, the way they describe it in the Steam description. So that threw me off. But maybe, you know, there's something there. I think someone can enjoy it for sure. Let's go into one that I know you saw no potential in. This is an older game, which was Outlier. Cool. Do you remember Outlier from Joyway?
That's right. Yes. That had the cool movement system, I think. Mid-air stuff.
Yes. Yeah. And I remember watching you play it, and you were like on the ground, stationary, like not jumping around. And I'm like, dude, no, you got to play it. Like, got to move around like a crazy person. I messaged you. And you're like, nah, dude, any way you play this game, it sucks. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I see potential here. And I guess they did too, because they reworked it into Dead Hook. Have you played Dead Hook?
Yes.
Dead Hook, I'm like mid. Like, there's aspects of it I like, but it just doesn't really capture me.
I think I'm a little bit fed up with the roguelike scenario sometimes. I like the Light Brigade's version of a roguelike because it feels like ever-changing environments. You're still on some sort of adventure, as Dead Hook literally is room by room by room by room boss. And but the things I did like, it's weird. I always feel like Joyway are kind of like so close to making something really good. Like Stride Fates, for example. There was good. I did enjoy Stride Fates. There was definitely some issues I had, but I really enjoyed that game. So yeah, I always feel they're close. I don't know what happened to Outlier. Did they? I'm sure Eric Masher said did they refund everyone or something?
I think they refunded everyone. They pulled it from Steam and then they reworked it into Dead Hook.
So what happened then? Like, I mean, I know you're saying I didn't like it, and you're saying you did like it. Did a lot of people not like it?
It just wasn't selling.
Right.
They said their official statement was they overestimated like the PCVR community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that was just like a matter of like seeing potential. So you see some in Hard Shot. I didn't really see it, but maybe it's there. Outlier, there was some, but they really just needed to rework it, whatever the case may be. But one where we disagree with is Covert Ops.
Are you going to tell me you don't like Phantom
I
Covert
don't
Ops?
like Covert Ops.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay.
I'm sorry, stealth canoeing is not for me. I just found it bland and boring and kind of like I don't know, like aspects of it that were supposed to be like theatrical were just like lame. Like, oh, they're gonna blow up this building, there's a big explosion. Like Helldivers gives you explosions.
Yes.
This gave me like a firecracker. Like this is like, I didn't feel it. A lot of time with me with VR is like, does it elicit any emotion or strong reaction from me? And Covert Ops I just found was bland and boring, in my opinion.
I don't know what to say because it would be so opposite. Like, I've been on at those guys to do a Quest 3 enhanced version for since Quest 3 launched, because I personally really like that game. I was a little bit pissed off that the bad guy, they had the guy from Solid Snake do the voice. I can't remember the actor's name. I should remember his name, but and they made him the bad guy. And I'm like, why'd you do that? Why isn't he you?
He's got a good voice.
He's got an excellent voice. I know, but I didn't like it. He was some Russian guy. I just wanted him to be Snake all over again. But yeah, I personally really liked it, and I don't know why. I must want to canoe.
That's a game where I wouldn't say it's broken. I just found it very dull. Like I struggled to get through it. So that's, and I guess we're finding, which is very common. Things are very subjective.
Yeah.
Usually a lot of times when I go in like to do a review or something, my first thing is like, how much fun did I have with the gameplay? And that's like 60% of the score.
Yeah.
And then after that is like the overall storyline and the quality. Like if a game has amazing gameplay, but has like a ton of bugs, it's still a lot of fun to be had there. So like I would just mention the bugs and say, listen, I'm still enjoying it. Hopefully they patch these. So like the gameplay is like the end all be all for me. So the next title where we're definitely going to disagree is Stranger Things.
Yeah, okay. This is the one. I know you really liked it, didn't you?
I enjoyed it for sure. I found it very intriguing. I thought it was like excellent storytelling, the way they used the VR. I can understand there's aspects of it that would annoy people because they still have to get under my skin, like when you constantly loop.
Chapter 5, I think, is the one.
Yeah, 5 or 6 is the constant freaking loop, and you're like, how do I get out of this?
Yeah.
But like I definitely enjoyed it. I felt it added more to the show. Yeah. And then when I see like people ragging on it, I'm like scratching my head, reaching out to other people. It seems like the most of the community, again, we're gonna say we don't completely, validate Quest reviews. But the Quest score is solid. It was like 4.6 the last time I checked it. And it had a decent number of reviews out there. It wasn't like 5 reviews. And it wasn't people just saying, hey, here's my my 25% code. Yeah. So it was pretty solid overall. I could understand people not liking it, but I think you walked away saying it was broken. Was that your experience?
Do you know what was weird, right? Completely behind the scenes. I had very low expectations of this game. And I had a meeting that day and I jumped in Strange Things and I did the tutorial, and I did the first bit in the house, like literally, and that's where I stopped. I managed to raise myself up, go into another world, and I said to Mike, I went, dude, this game's actually bloody good. I think it's gonna be really good. Like, it looks really good, like the water and everything. I was really impressed. I loved like the rainbow effects and throwing stuff, breaking up shards, throwing it. And then after that, there was a couple of moments I liked. I liked it when you had the picture.
Yeah,
thing.
the little
I liked
toy.
that. Yeah, but there was just too many times I got stuck in the world or I fell in the floor and I had to restart the game. And then
see, I never I walked away saying, wow, they delayed this game, so there's probably something wrong. And I did clip through the ceiling a couple times as back then. Like I'd launch myself up and hit the ceiling and kind of see through it for half a second and then come back down. But I never got stuck. I never really had any issues. So I was like, that's strange. It's strange to see that difference, but I get it's play style, whatever it is. I don't know.
There was another game that you and me played. I think it was you and me, or me and someone else, and it was almost like we played a completely different build.
It's gonna be Dark Pictures, I think. Switchback VR.
Yeah, I think so.
So
because you said it was like it was broken for you, wasn't it?
No. Mine was fine, but other people it was broken for. Was yours fine?
Oh no. Well, I can't remember. But I know there was a game where I was reading comments. I was thinking, like you just said, I didn't experience that. But I'm assuming that's for everyone, like in every game.
Honestly, like, so Switchback VR, if it wasn't you, whoever it was, what blew my mind was I honestly thought some other people were playing like a completely different version. Because people are like, this is clearly a PlayStation 4 game. The load time's over a minute. I'm like,
that wasn't me.
I'm like, a minute load time? I would have left. I'm like, let me tell you, the Iron Man VR, that load time killed me. Me. So like, so I went and checked all my footage. 6 seconds for load time. And I know people were saying like, oh, they look behind them and like the world wasn't rendered anymore. Things were disappearing. Trees weren't rendering. And I'm like, what are these people talking about?
Yes. See, I thought you said what you were saying someone else said.
No. My experience was solid.
Channel. Yeah, my experience was solid. The only thing was a bit like the low resolution.
Yeah, it wasn't a good looking game. I mean, it was like last generation-ish graphics. It wasn't a very good looking game. But
I still enjoyed it.
People were like, it's so blurry, I can't see anything.
I know, like Vaseline in their eyes.
I'm like, what game did they... I'm like, no, these people just don't have the PlayStation VR2 on their head right.
Yeah. I don't know,
Yeah. So, all right, Stranger Things, all right. So, Stranger Things, a little bit different experience. You didn't enjoy this storyline. If you didn't enjoy the storyline, it's a wash.
I just found the whole game I was just perplexed a lot of the time. Found myself in like weird holes, sort of wondering what was going on in general. I didn't feel any haptics from like the big bits that were happening with these plants.
I'm immune to Quest haptics. I don't feel them ever.
Oh, okay.
They are so low. Compared to like, I started with the wands, which will like shake your hands off.
Right.
So the wands, even like the PlayStation VR controllers, I don't feel haptics much. Like I don't feel them that much.
Do you always notice the headset haptics though?
Yeah,
because it's just so unusual.
I noticed them. Yeah, because you're like, ooh, like what the hell is that?
Yeah. So that's what happened yesterday.
them.
I was playing Little Cities and a plane hit me in the head. I was like, I was doing something and I was like,
what a ridiculous thing to code haptics in, but that's great. That is great.
Really good. Yeah.
Really now, probably the biggest disagreement, or probably the most controversial one to talk about, is Bulletstorm.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Now, you were approached for promotional content, and you turned it down. We've all been there. I started the game. I jumped in for about 45 minutes and I'm like, shit, I think I might, turn this down. Because, well, one, like the first thing that annoyed me was just no graphical options. So I was like, it doesn't look that great. And then getting into it, the enemies were very bullet spongy. It wasn't super fun. You had that very long intro, which sucks in VR. You can't like drag out an intro in VR. It just doesn't work. So I'm like, all right, slow start. I'm like, I got to give it at least 2 hours. So once I get to about an hour in, I get the leash. You're starting to unlock like chain kills and stuff and starting to get updates. I started feeling it. And I just sat there and played like the whole weekend. I just played through it over the weekend. And I was like, that was fun. Absolutely mindless fun. And then I was asking them for a quest code because I really wanted to get on the quest just to see what it was like. They sent me the quest version like a day before release. And I played just towards the end. I just wanted to see like more of the end. I didn't want to replay the slow beginning. So, because we had a debug version, so we were able to jump into any level we wanted to. I know based on talking to certain people, like we played different quest builds. I don't know how much that impacts our overall experience because mine was like the day one build, but I can't say how much that impacts the experience. But like I thought it was fine on Quest, pretty, like uglier than PC, but the PC version I already felt was kind of ugly to begin with. And I just felt like it was mindless fun. My biggest complaint about the game is it's overpriced.
Right.
That is,
I don't know how much it is. I can't remember.
I think it was $40. And my biggest complaint was that game is overpriced. But I still stand by the fact that I enjoyed that game, and people tell me no, there's no way you enjoyed that game.
Oh, that's the thing. And I don't. When I make a review, I never want to. If anyone comes back to me and says I love this game, I just think you're one of the lucky ones that it resonated with, and I just missed out. You know. But Bulletstorm, yeah, it was. I think PC was easily the best version, like without a doubt. That was, and I'm very surprised at that, because why would anyone in their team say the PC version is the one we need? Like the Quest version should have been the one that got all the attention.
Yep.
Yeah, so there was definitely something going on with the builds, because Ben's weapon video that he did was all on Quest 2, and I think he even said in his video, like, they've asked me to use the Quest 2. I was on Quest 3, and actually, like, I'd had a meeting with one of their producers like the day before. Obviously, I didn't know how bad this was, and he, and we spoke about it. He said Quest 3, fucking awesome. I was like, cool, man, that's what I'll do. And I was met with probably one of the worst games that I think is released in terms of polish. Dude, I don't know if you've watched my video, but there is explosions in one eye and not in the other.
Yeah, and then like a lot of people were coming, and this was pre-launch because the video went up before the game was out, and people are like, explosions only render in one eye. It's the worst game ever. And I'm like, what? I'm like, wait, what? And then like I go back, like you check your footage, you can't see it because you only have footage captured in one eye. But like I threw the game back on, and I'm like, no, that explosion looks normal. So clearly, there were issues, and they know there were issues. And I think the biggest problem was they tried to hit 3 platforms at once.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, 100%. Because PSVR2, it was actually very comparable to PC. But like, for example, the cutscenes were like a blurry, washed out color. It was really weird, because I'd seen it on PC, and I was like, yeah, like this is what I think is the best version of the game. And then like I'll be honest, I didn't really enjoy the gameplay though. Like in general, I mean, you said you enjoyed like it
took a little while to hook me. And like I would say, it's not challenging. It's not. It's just mindless fun.
But that's where we're different then. Like you were happy to go. Like for me, I found it just boring. I was just sitting there. I was just like,
like some people say like, oh, they love Power Wash Simulator or the Lawn Mowing Simulator, and I'm like, what? I'm like, that shit is chores, man. I got to do that shit in real life. I don't want to do that. And then when people explain to me, well, you just shut your brain off and you go through and you relax. And I'm like, oh, okay, I get that. Like, I enjoy Little Cities. Little Cities there's no challenge.
I like Little Cities.
Yeah, and I just turned that on, and like next thing you know, an hour went by and you feel relaxed. So I get it.
There was a game I was just gonna say another game, and it's gone out of my head. Oh. Not one we disagreed on necessarily. I can't remember what I was going to say, but it's gone.
But like, I would say like one of the games that I turned down paid promotion and then felt the need to talk about the game was Everslot Invasion. Nothing has disappointed me more than that game.
What was worse is I was working at Fast Travel at the time, and prior to getting the job, they told me the games that were coming, and they were like Everslot. I was like, what, on Quest? I was like, wow, that's awesome. And then when I jumped in, I was like, oh, it's a wave shooter. I was like, oh no. And I think they just restricted themselves. And then the more I played it, like I wanted to support the guys. And I found the kind of first loop fun, but I never actually played the final version, because when I saw some footage of the final version, it hadn't gone anywhere. Like it hadn't gone any. The early access build I had maybe 3 months prior to launch was the same game. So yeah.
You want to talk about devs being mad at you? They were not happy with me. And they were like, just the fact that you stopped and compared it to the PC version is disingenuous. How could you do that? And I'm like, guys, it's got the same name. And you guys, listen, you had plenty of time to change the community thought process, because people were all like, here's another game that the PCVR community said would never come to Quest. It's coming. Everslot's coming. No, it's not. You had 2 years pretty much to rectify that opinion out there. But no, you liked it. liked that because it was good for them. And then when it comes out and you're like, no, this is not Everslot on Quest, they're like, how dare you? How dare you make that comparison? And I'm just like, listen, no, how dare you sell a subpar game on Quest and make the Quest look bad? That's how dare you?
I'm very surprised if they made money at all, to be honest. Because it just went in such a weird direction, and I think sometimes these developers get so down a certain path that they can't turn back almost, and I think that's what happened in that game.
I think you're also in a scenario, well, they're working with a publishing studio now, so their hands are going to be tied because that's where the money's coming from. I know the original Everslot didn't make any money. In fact, they lost money. And it only came out because of angel investors, and they expected the early access release to bring in more cash, but at that time PSVR was already drying up and the excitement.
This is what I'm going full circle though, back to the PSVR2 thing. I even read some comments about how they think PSVR2 will save PCVR, and I don't see it, because I think the console guys think that it won't really matter what sort of spec PC you have to experience. Games are optimized for PS5, they're optimized for PSVR2, so they look as best as they can, mostly.
Yep.
When it comes to PC, that isn't the case.
No, it can never be the case. And there's a conversation I've had. There's a lot more to this conversation, but this one I had with what is their name? The Red Matter 2 developers, something robot, Vertical Robot.
Oh yeah, Vertical Robot. Yeah.
They're great to talk to. I've had long conversations with them, and they talked about, hey, listen, the PlayStation VR2 version is better looking than any PC you could throw at it, because we know exactly the specs of the PlayStation 5, so we maxed it out. Yeah. We added visual effects, because we're not going to bother adding them on PC, because 5% of the people will use those visual effects. We're not developing for 5%. On the PlayStation 5 or PlayStation VR2, we're developing for 100%. So we gave them 100%.
I seriously think that's what they did with Quest 3 as well. And it's a real shame that there was a demo that we did at Connect, I think it was.
Yeah.
And you could just press a button.
Yep.
And flip. And I was just like, guys, you've got to put this out as like a tech demo to show the graphical comparisons. Because one thing that's definitely fell off is developers making use of Quest 3. You just don't hear about it anymore. Quest 3 enhancements, Yeah,
well, and it's so... The market is crazy, too. Like, you see this on both the Quest 3 and PSVR 2, because people are like, well, I have the better hardware. If the developers don't take advantage, like, if a developer releases a game and there's no eye-tracked foveated rendering, they get their ass handed to them. Yeah. Why didn't you implement that? Where are my 4K resolutions? So now we see that, too, with the Quest. A Quest game comes out and, where... You didn't give us a Quest 3 version.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, all right. We're still kind of in the age of Quest 2.
Yes, 100%.
Give it a year, the Quest 3 will be focused. It's just where we are. The development teams for VR are just too small.
Yeah.
They're too small. You're talking about teams of 30 people. So, I mean, a really big studio might have 100 when it comes to VR, but you're talking about really small studios. They can't support multiple different platforms. I know people are ragging on Asgard's Wrath 2, where are the Quest 3 enhancements? They gave out some, but not all of them. But I mean, a game like that, do you know how much QA is required to make sure changes don't break some section of the game?
I can't even fathom how they made that game on a Quest anyway.
It is hands down probably my favorite VR game. I'm still playing every day.
Yeah, really.
I love it.
Oh man, I wish I could have. I played up to the third character to get my review done, and I was so impressed. I was massively impressed. I
am just addicted to the Uncharted Rifts.
Yeah. So the roguelite. Yeah.
So I just jump in for 30 minutes every morning, kind of just get the blood flowing. And I just love it. The combat's great, and it still manages to surprise me. I probably played 100 hours in the game, and still something happens that surprises me.
That's awesome. What did you think of Assassin's Creed?
Good. I'm gonna put it at good. One, it's not my type of game. I'm not a stealth guy. You see that with Covert Ops. So I'm not a stealth guy, And I think sometimes the game like looks great, like the graphics at some moments are really good, and then other times you have like PlayStation 3 characters talking to you.
Yeah.
And you're like, ooh, like I talked about with Heartshot, when you have that, like all of a sudden it goes sideways on me, or it doesn't stay consistent, it breaks the immersion for me. I also happen to be one of the people where the game stuttered to no end.
Yeah, I heard about that. Same as this like tech demo I did the other day, like because it's like a forest thing. It's called Oniri Forest.
Yep.
And I was like, I'm not going to fucking cover this. It's pointless. And then I messaged the developer on LinkedIn, and because for some reason I assumed it was just photo geometry, like nothing.
Yeah,
particularly
other
special.
people were assuming that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not. It's gigabytes of data. I mean, like, and it's a virtual environment. There's nothing. It's not a real place. I thought it was a real place, basically, and it isn't. And I was like, and it's free. So I kind of thought that's pretty cool as a tech demo for people request to just get in the headset and be like, yeah, like this is what the visuals can be like. I did get some kickback though. A couple of people were like, well, you can't interact with anything. I'm like, yeah, I know you can't yet. You know, maybe one day. But I still think for something free, people might just be like, wow, look at this. And because I was like that. I went in there and I was like, wow, this looks amazing. So I felt like sharing it. But yeah, Assassin's Creed, I absolutely loved it. And that was the same. People were like, starter's so bad. I'm like, when? I don't know when that happened.
Mine stuttered. Like
Quest
sometimes
3.
I could go an hour with nothing. Other times, right before I stab anyone, it's just like,
Is that on Quest 3?
Quest 3.
Yeah, see, I couldn't record and play it either. I had to use Developer Hub.
Yeah.
I was messing around with so many settings, dude, because I think they obviously are pushing that headset like a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know, and the game resolution is incredibly high. Like I feel like they almost should have lowered the resolution a little bit, focused more on some textures, because I forget what the render resolution of that game, but it's one of the highest render resolutions of a VR game on Quest for sure.
The menus are crazy sharp. Like I kind of thought like, wow, this is the highest resolution menu I've ever seen. And then I really enjoyed the game. I enjoyed it a lot.
It's not my type of game, but if it's not my type of game and I still enjoyed it, it's a good game.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, I get that.
But like in the beginning of the game where I think you're overlooking, like, I think it's Italy and there's fireworks going off. I'm like, damn. I'm like, this is Quest? This looks really good. But then, like I said, it's not consistent.
Right.
There's areas in that game where it looks like super bland.
Yeah. I get that. Yeah.
Yep. I think we've gone through just about most of the topics I want to talk to. I got one final one, and this is just get your opinion because I don't think I've ever heard much from you on this. How are you feeling about UEVR?
Yeah, I really like it. I don't use it as much as I was expecting. And I think, why is that? Why don't I do that? Because of you get profiles pre-made, so you can just jump in and stuff. But there's still some games
it's still friction.
Don't. Yeah, and it still doesn't always feel very VR. You know, like there's, it might. And I can accept it in some games, and some I'm just like, no, I'm quite cool just playing this without VR.
Yeah, and that's where I was at. I mean, like, so I ran, RayPal, which will give you like a rating of every game in your Steam library and say how good it runs with UEVR.
Yeah.
And like, I only had like a handful of even though I have like 1,000 Steam games, I only had like 4 or 5 A-rated games.
Is that to your rig or is that just through their testing?
That is through their testing. Like, so it's not based on your specs. It's just based on like their testing. So I threw on Alien Fire Team.
Yeah.
And like, I'm like, okay, this could be really good. Did have to work through a few issues with the profile, which is added friction that the average person I don't think will go through. And then when I got in, there were annoyances. Like when you're in a menu, your gun might like be just floating in your eyeball, which is kind of annoying. There are moments that might induce, motion sickness for certain people. But the biggest kicker was, one, no one's online playing that game anymore. It's an online only game. And two, you don't have controller mapping. So like it's like, oh, press X. And I'm like, well, which one is X? And then I like just press every key till I find what it is. But meanwhile, I just used half of my resources trying to find what the key is. And like that, those little things are just more and more added friction.
Yeah, and VR doesn't need that. Like, that's the thing. Like, that's not what people want in VR because it's such a event. Nothing else can happen in your life while you're in VR. So it has to be, that time is very precious.
Yep.
So yeah, I get it. Like I definitely found myself when I was very lucky. I did a very early access video. Kind of forgot that this guy's rig was super powerful, and he was like the master of everything. And it was an amazing experience. You know, I came away and I was like, wow, like to know a game like Returnal, which is one of my favorite roguelike games. I love it. And to be in that world, seeing like leaves pick up from your lasers, which I'd never noticed before, all that stuff was brilliant. But yeah, like you said, like the key map, the button mapping wasn't right. He said that actually is sorted now. I've never tried it though. I've never tried mapping it. But yeah, like the other day I played Pacific Drive, and I kind of genuinely thought like, well, if it's not very good, that's fine. I can refund it. Problem is, I tried to play it on a flat screen and it was no good because now I've been in the car and I've been in the world so I've kind of fucked myself up there a little bit.
My other issue though, and I'm sure other people don't care about this, is but we're playing, like if you take a game and only play it in VR, a flat screen game, you're not playing the original like intended experience. Right. So you're kind of taking like the artistic vision and kind of pooping on it, in a sense, you know, right. and trying it, and that could do everything from change the challenge level to, you know, break certain aspects of the game, like because you can't progress forward because of whatever reason or whatnot. So it just completely changes the state of the game, and it could be for better or worse. And I just feel like, you know, it's not really my place to go messing around with someone's original vision before I at least experience it in flat screen. And then after I play it in flat screen, do I want to play it again is the other question.
Yeah. So what have been your, I think it's when games like Pacific Drive, for example, which you can mod as well now, but games like Pacific Drive, there was a racing game, I can't remember what it's called, Gravel or something, that just worked. There was no friction at all. But yeah, like for me, it's been maybe 8 games that are like that. Everything else, you really need to get in there and start like messing around with components and just, you know, make this vanish because if your camera's too close, then it pops in your face, and there's all that stuff, you know. But I do think for the hardcore,
I think one, it is an extreme level of development. Like it is just a masterwork of development. Like the fact that someone was able to pull this off. Yeah. And then I think there's definitely a community for it. But again, like I kind of, to circle back to PlayStation VR, like everyone was acting like this is the end all be all. Like PCVR is back. This is the saving grace of PCVR. We just got 11,000 new games, and any naysayers don't like PCVR. Like that's what it started to feel like. And I'm like, no, I'm just being realistic here. Like I'm yet to jump into a UVR experience that has blown me away, that I want to play more than any other real native VR experience.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree with that. So, for example, if you said to me, GT, are you going to complete Returnal flat screen or VR? There's no question it'd be flat screen. I don't even think I could play the game fully. I'd be exhausted, actually. But yeah, right. As I said, it's definitely got wow moments. And one thing I do really like is that I think developers then might try it themselves and go, do you know what? Is this game, like, we didn't even realize that this game probably could look this good. Like that's why I don't like doing it, but that's why I at developers, like when I did Pacific Drive, I'm like, I atted them just so they know that it exists. I really hope
this is a possibility.
Yeah. And all you got to do is double click. That's it. And you're in.
And honestly, that was one of the things that I said when I talked about UEVR was one of the biggest pieces of potential here is it can just intrigue more developers. Yeah. If a developer is like, I'm curious about VR, let me just glimpse what my game is like in VR. It can immediately send them in a new direction. I want to make a whole new native VR game. I want to convert my game. I want to do whatever it is. So there's an exposure there, but I think it's still minimal.
I still think, like, imagine the one reason we're here, obviously, is because we love video games in the first place, whenever we got into them. And then the idea of VR was being inside those video games. Yeah. I can only imagine how that feels to be inside a game you made. Yeah. Like, that must be fucking mind-blowing, dude. Like the first time I went Ocarina of Time in VR, like, just crazy.
See, I always wanted to go into game development, but I just said it's too you can't trust it. Like you're gonna lose your job at any minute. One of my buddies went into game development, and he's worked for EA, BioWare. He's been all over the place. He's worked on huge games, but he loses his job like every 1 to 3 years.
Yeah.
So, and then he's got to figure something out and get hired. So, and I'm just like, I'm not going through that.
Some people can do that. Some people are happy with that. For example,
I'm a high anxiety person. I can't do that.
So the town I live in is a very railway based town. It's very historically railway. So everyone, including myself, like, it was the one place, if you're not very educated and you're a bit of a knob, you end up going on the railway. And I was very lucky. I worked my way into a company that was like the top firm, so it controlled everyone else. But they're contractors, and they would do that. They would literally go and work somewhere for months and then not have any work. And
I just can't do that. I'd lose my mind.
I hated it as well. That insecurity. Yeah. Yep. YouTube for me is insecure, though. YouTube
is definitely insecure. There's no doubt about it. We were talking about before we started filming how, like, December you can make so much money even if you don't have views, and then January it all dries up. I mean, and that's ad revenue. I always tell anyone, if you're going into content creation, don't rely on your ad revenue to support you. It could disappear overnight.
Yeah.
So don't worry. So ignore your ad revenue. It's not where you should be making your money. So I mean, I'm in a very different position now in my life. I worked in IT for 25 years. Yeah. So I'm in a very different position. I was well off for a while, good investments. My wife makes a very good income. So things are different for me now. Otherwise, I would have never pursued this. This was hobby. I enjoy gaming and VR so much that I just want to talk about it and meet people in the space. So that's the only reason why I did it. But I wanted to get into game development, and I had a total conversion mod for Duke Nukem 3D. I don't know, like almost 30 years ago. Like, that's how long ago I made it. I was in my teens, and that was great. Like, I would have loved game development, but again, like, it's a high stress, crazy environment that you can't trust. And I think I'm better off for not getting into it.
And then you got us saying to everyone how bad all good the games are. So yeah.
Now we go the opposite. We couldn't make the games. Now we just bitch about them. Which I've heard. Well, if you go make a better game yourself if you don't like the game. Yeah. All right, good. A good argument there.
Thank you.
GT, it has been absolutely great to have you on. Is there anything else you want to get off your chest before we end this?
No, man. I just want to say thank you for inviting me for this chat, and I can't believe it's been a year because I do kind of remember the last time we did it. That just shows how busy we are.
Yeah, it's crazy because when I think back, I'm like, oh yeah, that's when me and Steve Knows did blah 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 in 2021. What? What? Holy crap! Yeah, this has been going on for a while. But
I still remember when you guys were like the new ones, like the new guys in the content creator scene. There was you, Steve, Thrill, Eric for president. I think he's now works in development.
He works at Big Box.
At Big Box, yeah.
I talk to Eric all the time. He's my boy.
I hope he's happy though. He's obviously happy.
He's happy. He's doing good. He moved out there. He moved to Seattle. He's a good dude. I talk to him all the time. He has helped me broaden my thought process. I've always been very opinionated, but now I try to make sure I'm thinking of not just the consumer side. I'm thinking the developer side. I'm thinking of practicality. I'm thinking about sales. I'm thinking a lot deeper.
That's where I go wrong. I think I'm a bit I know all that stuff. I work with developers, but some days, like Stranger Things, I don't even script. I just turn the camera on. And
most of the time I don't script. I just go.
Yeah. Just go, yeah, because that's
Just-
how you hard. You don't need to script it if it's here. Do you know
Yep.
what I mean?
Yep.
So, yeah.
If you know something well, like it's easy to explain.
Yes.
That's end the story.
Yeah.
All right, dude. It's been great having you on. Guys, go
Thank you.
subscribe to GT. I'm sure most of you guys are already subscribed.
Hit the like button.
Yeah, and then I guess I'll see you on again next year, buddy.
See you in 2025. Cheers, mate.
I'm gonna stop recording.